Over the years, we have worked incredibly hard to ensure that the voices of children and young people are heard throughout the Methodist Church, and this is down to the hard work of all of you. We can see this through the growth of 3Gen365, having elected youth reps who influence the work of the church, and children and young people attending district synods. We cannot thank you enough for all that you have done to enable this to happen. We know how vital it is that the voices of children and young people are heard throughout the church, and it benefits the church and the children and young people. However, we know that this year has been challenging and different for children and youth work in many ways. There will be some of you who will have been in contact with your youth groups via online networks. There will be some of you who will be contacting your youth groups by sending them activity packs or one-to-one phone calls. There will be some of you who will be not in contact with your youth groups at all, and that is okay. We know that, like everything, the pandemic has challenged and changed the way we do our work. We want to listen to this and use it as an opportunity to develop our work further so that we can support you and your children and young people. 3Gen365 the event was unable to happen this year due to the lockdown, and this also gave us an opportunity to launch 3Gen365. We want the voices of children and young people to not only be heard at the 3Gen365 weekend, but to be in dialogue with children and young people across the Methodist Church all year round. 3Gen365 is about getting dialogue to happen with children and young people within local churches and contexts. We also want children and young people to be empowered to be agents of change so that they can become integral members of the body of Christ. 3Gen365 isn't replacing 3Gen365 the event. It's extending everything that we love about 3Gen, the dialogue, the worship, the fellowship, to happen in local contexts. We know that we must work as a whole church to develop 3Gen365. And so we want to support and work with you to enable this to happen. We know that some groups will be starting from scratch with their children and youth work, and that is okay. The vision for 3Gen365 is that we will build and evolve it over the years so that dialogue with children and young people within local churches can build and develop as well. There are many aspects to 3Gen365. As I said before, one of the key aims of 3Gen365 is to allow dialogue to happen in local churches, circuits and districts with children and young people. We recognise that starting these conversations may be challenging, and so we've created the Toolbox, which has a vast array of resources which enable youth leaders to start these conversations with their children and young people, including conversations about the pandemic and the experience of children and young people during lockdown. We also recognise that the need to support and equip you to be able to do your work with children and young people. Therefore, we have hosted numerous webinars for leaders which explore various topics that will help you and your work. In addition to us supporting youth leaders and those who work with children and young people, we recognise that youth leaders need somebody in their local area who could support and coordinate their work. Therefore, we have recruited 19 district ambassadors in 17 districts who coordinate the work of 3Gen365 in their district and who form a network of district ambassadors across the country to share ideas and support each other. They are crucial in getting the local element of 3Gen365 in place, especially organising local tune-in events, and they are in dialogue with us so that we can go on this 3Gen365 journey together. As well as supporting and working with youth leaders, We recognise that children and young people need a way to engage with 3Gen365 that is unique to them and their needs. We also listened to children and young people who expressed that they miss the opportunity at 3Generate to meet with other young Christians and to develop their own faith. From this, we hosted 2 online tune-in events, which enabled us to be in dialogue with children and young people, for them to meet and chat with each other, and to spend time with God. From our work with children and young people, we also know that a key way to communicate with them is digitally. Therefore, we developed the 3Gen app further so that it became a space with exclusive content for children and young people and a place for them to share with us and each other. Another key element of 3Gen365 is the focus on children and young people tuning into God and responding to what God might be saying to them. Because of this, we launched Fridays at 5:17, a time for children and young people to stop, pray and tune into God. It comes from 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 17, which reads, "Never stop praying." This space is a time for children and young people to be in tune with God, listening to what God might be saying, and a time for children and young people to know that they are praying alongside other children and young people across the connection. There is material released every week on social media and reminders to pray on the app. This is incredibly exciting for the church because it recognises that God can and does speak through children and young people, and who empowers them to influence the work of the church rooted in prayer. We also want dialogue with children and young people to influence 3Generate the event. Therefore, we have a team of satellite groups who plan different aspects of the event. Children and young people are included as part of these teams, so that 3Generate is an event for children and young people, made and created by children and young people. 3Generate365 is not just for children and young people or their leaders, but it's for the whole church. We want the dialogue with children and young people to be woven into everything that we do as a church, within a local and district-wide and national church, so that children and young people become integral members of the body of Christ. Therefore, everybody has a role to play in embedding 3Generate365 into our churches. First and foremost, you can pray for the children and young people and the work of 3Generate365. Find out what is going on in your district. How can you get involved? In your local churches, be active in including children and young people. Talk to them. Equip them to be able to sit around the table as equal members of the body of Christ. Even if your children and young people have lost touch with you during the pandemic, encourage your churches to maintain engagement and support with your children and young people. They really need it. How are you including 3Generate365 in your mission planning? Why don't you consider to be part of a satellite group, or invite someone you know to be part of a satellite group? Overall, we are incredibly excited by what is happening with 3Generate365, and we hope you are too. We cannot wait to support you, work with you and alongside you so that we can journey together to ensure that children and young people are integral members of the body of Christ. On the screen in a minute, you will see 2 questions that I would really love you to consider. And if you have any questions, please do get in touch with me or your district ambassador. Thank you very much.